What do you got? You got fast food money?
No, made some burgers.
You know it's National Hamburger Day.
No way.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, I
Check.
hope you're recording this.
I am. Yeah, it's actually National Hamburger Day because Dana told me, my wife, and we had salmon on the barbecue, but I really wanted burgers. So right now I'm really watching you eat that burger.
Oh, sirloin burger.
Sirloin burger. Did you
Oh,
barbecue it?
yeah. Well, actually, it's Angus. Sorry,
Angus. Yeah.
Angus sirloin. It says. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's beef. Where's the beef?
Okay, yeah, that's just dated. That's a pretty old reference, over 30 years old. Welcome back to another episode of the Three Falls podcast. I just want to let everyone know that we're on a new platform. How exciting is this? Not only can you find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. Guess what, Matt? We're now on iHeartRadio.
Wow. And iHeartRadio and I heart you for that.
Well, that's terrible. Well, with that being said, I am Derek, joined by always Matt Pepper. Matt, Godzilla vs. Yokozuna. Who do you got? Go.
Banzai. Going for Yoko.
Good call. Good call. So don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Three Falls Podcast. So with all that being said, I guess we kind of got to start off on some heavy news. A lot of you who listening probably know about the unfortunate passing of Hana Kimura. She was a Japanese standout star. She passed away, committed suicide. She was only 22 years old. She was being cyberbullied. From what I gathered, it had nothing to really do with her pro wrestling career, but more of her stint on the Netflix reality show Terrace House. She was, I don't know if I said this, I probably did, but she's 22. She started her in-ring career in 2016. She worked more notably for Wrestle One and Shimmer. She's actually a second generation superstar. Her mother was a professional wrestler, so she actually followed her mom into Sport of Kings. She recently was at New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 14, where she competed in a dark match. We just want to send our heartfelt condolences to her family, friends, coworkers, and fans. It's very unfortunate, Matt. Japan is looking into taking a stance by identifying cyberbullies promptly and banning them from Facebook and Twitter. I just think it's very unfortunate news. Do you have anything to say on this?
It's a lot to unpack on that, and I don't want to take the focus off what the actual tragedy is. To see somebody that's that young that passes away in that manner, that's to me a very troubling situation. There's a lot of outpouring with the wrestling community about it, about cyberbullying. To me, I don't know all the details. Obviously, we only know what's been out there. A lot of it stemming from an episode or episodes of the reality show she was on, interactions with another house guest. So a lot of the feedback, the fan comments, the cyberbullying is a result of that. Now, one thing when it comes to these situations, there's probably underlying issues that we don't know about. We know what's been reported, that a lot of it was the result of the reality show. There was also some reports that Hana Kimura, so she is half Japanese and half Indonesian. And in Japan, there's still a stigma for people that aren't full Japanese. So there was some talk that there was a lot of comments, ill behavior towards that as well. That, believe it or not, that is still an issue in Japan, from what I understand. I don't know if there's any other underlying issues. Obviously, if you're a second generation wrestler, her mother's a pretty big name in Japan. I don't know if there was some pressure in terms of her career. Following footsteps, that's always a difficult thing for anybody that's coming into the business after a parent. It's an unfortunate situation. I don't, in terms of the cyberbullying thing, I don't really know how to even comment on that. That's, a lot of wrestlers have come out this week about being cyberbullied, and I think there's different interpretations on what that actually is. Go ahead.
I just want to, because I had a thought that I wanted to get out, and that's the perfect. There's a difference between, jeering against someone, so saying like, you suck, or you're not good, or type of things where you're going against a away team, if you will. There's a difference between that and actually attacking the human being that is behind the wrestler. And with social media, it's very, very hard because the lines are more blurred from the professional wrestler, the character, and the person, the real life person that portrays them. Like I said, I think this has more to do with Terrace House than
Yes, it does.
wrestling, but just taking it back to what we know, professional wrestling, because there's a lot to this that a lot of people need to understand about, that these are human beings and they don't deserve to be treated like this. Like, I know I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I know there was a podcaster this week that said something about some disparaging remarks about Alexa Bliss. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to give that, shed light to that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to say is that he crossed that line, and I think he has since apologized. He was just trying to get a reaction, a knee-jerk reaction, and the whole shock jock type of thing that, is so 90s. People just really need to these are human beings. If you went say this to these people to their face on the street, you shouldn't say it on social media. Don't be hide behind a keyboard, And even if you see people on the street, you don't talk to people this way. This is something that their parents should have taught them, when they were young.
Yeah.
You don't talk to people that way, especially people you don't know, for something that they never really did. Now, I do want to say that I know a lot of these reality shows take issues and they blow them up and they edit them in a certain way because they want to draw ratings. I'm not saying anything else. I'm just saying that. So take it for or leave it. All I know is that we lost somebody that was very young. She's, someone that was just finding her footing in as a wrestler. And, if this COVID thing didn't happen, she was starting to rise, like, from everything that I've read and that I looked, because I wasn't too familiar with her, so I did my research. She was starting to rise. She was part of this heel faction that was gaining momentum, and like I said, like, one of her last high profile matches was the undercard, the dark match for Wrestle Kingdom 14, which it doesn't really get any bigger than that when it comes to Japan wrestling.
And she also did the Ring of Honor New Japan show at Madison Square Garden.
Oh yeah, exactly. There you go, right? So, like, I would, it's very unfortunate. I wish things would have turned out differently. I wish someone was able to talk to her before all this. I don't want to say too much more on it. We said all we could.
I do want to make a note on something, though, because like I said, there was a lot of support from the wrestling community on that, and I think that's important to get the message out for cyberbullying. It's a fine line with pro wrestling, so it's hard for them to comment on it when some are blurring the lines between work and shoot. So I don't know how you gauge that on social media. Like, how do you actually measure that? And one thing, and I don't want to take the focus off her, but the people have posted cyberbullying stuff about her from wrestling as well. So I don't know where the line is on that. If you post a picture of you wanting to be a champion and you're told you suck, that's not, to me, cyberbullying.
No.
That, to me, you're tweeting about something work related, and if you come back and say that's bullying, I just think there's a really fine line. And I mean, you could parlay that into reality TV, because reality TV, generally, like you said, you're blowing things up. You're amplifying the person on the show to really gauge viewers. You work, essentially. And this one's a different scenario, but I don't know where the line is on social media. It's a tough one with this business.
What I suggest and what my idea would be, and I mean, you could argue that they shouldn't have to do this, but I believe if I'm a professional wrestler, I have one Twitter account for my gimmick and then another one that is private for my personals. I think that would be a good way. Just if you want that social media, you want to be personal on social media, then be personal. Have your friends, have your whatever you follow. But when you're a wrestler, it's really hard because you're a brand and you're trying to get that brand over.
Yes.
And You probably get more likes and more follows if you show people, hey, look, I'm a real person. But at the same time, it's really hard because you get attacked personally.
Well, the thing too is the fans have always generally, no matter what anyone says on Twitter, the fans generally look at pro wrestlers. They don't look at them as a bit part. When you're outside the ring, nobody says, "Hey, there's Darren Matthews." They're like, "Hey, that's William Regal." No, people don't do that. And then on the flip side, no one goes up to Henry Cavill and says, "Hey, Soup, how you doing?" That doesn't. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So because it's a blurred line. To go on your point, what I almost think needs to happen with any form of media, any like sports, anything, I almost feel, and I don't think anyone would like this, I almost think that the company should handle your social media.
That's very
because
interesting.
because yes, you can promote the brand, but we see it over and over again where you have talent going off on fans, on politicians, on you name it, any political matter, and it's just negative feedback back. Whereas if you had somebody handling your social media for you, you could work with them, generate whatever you needed to, and keep things going without having that. And that would block you from that negativity back. I almost think that companies really need to start looking at that part of it, because the other problem is too, your talent can get you in trouble. You've seen it in sports, you've seen it like everywhere. It's
Yep.
like, I mean, and then I'm not necessarily saying that something like that would prevent a tragedy like this, but that would block a lot of the, negativity that's coming back at a wrestler or actor or athlete, whatever you want to say. Now, I don't know. I mean, you're getting into privacy stuff there, but at the same time, to me, you'd have to protect the person behind the character at the end of the day, and protect their brand, protect your brand, protect their life, their mental health. I mean, if
Yeah.
they can't handle it, and I'm not suggesting that everyone should be able to handle it.
But what about independent workers?
That's a different story, because they don't have that safety net.
Exactly. But once, say you take a guy like Cole Cabana, who built
Mm-hmm.
his whole name and
Yep.
built his brand, and then he signs with like AEW, is he
Well,
signing over his whole brand, his whole
I
name?
wouldn't I wouldn't say that. What I would say there is somebody handles it in collaboration with him.
I can see. Now, do you think like companies should have like a class, if you will, or
Oh,
an instructor for someone so they could teach wrestlers how they should probably use social media and what they should or should not post? It's
I
really
would
hard because
think
then you're
so.
getting into like almost like a communism or something.
Well, how many companies, truthfully, does your work have a social media policy?
I don't know. They're not really a presence on social media, but
Right. But if you went on Twitter and said, I'm not happy with this place. This place sucks, whatever.
oh
But
yeah,
not
if it got,
right.
yeah.
So there's negativity towards the company. Most companies I've worked for have a social media policy in terms of you're representing a company. It depends on the company, right? So a lot of companies do have social media, and they do. I can tell you one job I've had before I even got hired. They told me they went through my social media to make sure I wasn't a liability online.
Oh boy, you better delete all those posts I made back in 2009. One at a time.
I'm not saying it was a thorough investigation, but it's the truth of it is you're representing a company and you're
Yeah.
representing yourself, right? So, you see it in sports. I'm not saying that necessarily should happen. I'm just saying that's something a company should consider. Like if you're high profile like that, it's tough. Like not everybody can handle social media. No, there's just no way. No way. If you have to have a certain mental toughness to be able to withstand that. I'm sorry, it's not an easy thing. And truthfully, in the wrestling business, it's a business predicated on ill feelings towards the paying audience, or perceived ill feelings towards the paying audience. It's a business that's made on heat. So the whole point of it is to either enrage the crowd or make them so happy they want to come back. The heat part is what always drew money. So you see enough people on Twitter that like MJF. MJF's probably the best example of that right now. He doesn't he doesn't really hold back. I mean, I think he's toned it down lately because of the circumstances, obviously, but he's not afraid to cut people down or whatever. He's an authentic representation of who he is on TV.
But he also doesn't post personal pictures. You don't see him with his girlfriend, wife, or whatever, or his parents.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't go, so you can't attack, like fans can't really attack him personally because he's not a personal guy.
Well,
he plays his
but
character.
Then here's the thing, right? If someone private messages him, tells him to go kill himself, his name is Maxwell. That is his actual name.
Yeah.
And they're saying his name and go kill yourself.
But see, and that's where we go.
Yes.
We come back again, because think about like the 1990s or the 2000s before social media was a thing, and you're walking back from your match and you have that fan that says, hey, so-and-so, go kill yourself or die, Rocky, die, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're coming back, because now, is that bullying? See, there's really a line between personal, what you would say in the crowd to a guy that's a heel, and what you would say to the person playing. It's really a weird
fine
subject.
line.
Yeah, it is a fine line.
And just to add to that, Mick Foley had a famous thing where somebody had a sign that said Kane Dewey.
Yeah.
And that really upset him, but he turned it into a money-making promo.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And then it's a very tough situation. And, again, I don't want to take anything away from what happened, but it's something that I don't know how you, in that kind of business, I don't know how you actually fix it without trying to somewhat control it. And then one other thing, again, I don't want to get too off topic on this. The outpouring was big for Hana Kimura. I do take some little personal, some of the people in the wrestling business who have alleged or noted cases of bullying towards other people are putting out statements about how bad cyberbullying is. And that I find is very troubling when you have a business that has had histories of not necessarily cyberbullying, but, political espionage. You have awful things have happened, whether it's racial, sexual, you name it. And I find that part troubling. And I'm not going to get into names or anything like that. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I mean, people can Google whatever they want in terms of bullying culture in wrestling. I just hope that that's a wake-up call for people in the business, because whether we want to believe it or not, that is still a cultural problem in pro wrestling.
With that being said, I mean, this is a subject that we can go back and forth here and there all day long. There's so many avenues to it. And I'm sure on future podcasts, we will talk more about this in some shape or form. But with that being said, let's lighten up the mood a bit, and let's talk about AEW and the Stadium Stampede, Double or Nothing, and Dynamite this week. But so we'll start with Stadium Stampede. We put up a Twitter poll, which is fancy for us, and it was, did you enjoy Stadium Stampede? And your options were yes, no, what was that, or sports-based wrestling. 100% said yes, they did enjoy Stadium Stampede. So with that being said, let's do this I
have an idea for this.
Okay, let's hear it.
I was going to surprise you.
Ooh,
I wrote down copious notes on this match. Now, I'm sure you have notes too.
Yes.
So,
not copious.
This isn't copious. That was just a big word I wanted to use. Basically, I wrote down points of the match. Beside each point of the match, I have either a check mark for good or an X for bad.
I like this.
These are not in any particular order, so I just want to go through each part of this.
Okay, and
with you, and you can do the same thing.
Perfect. Yes. Okay, perfect.
All right. So the first thing I put down, and we'll get into this long form, I'm sure, but the first thing I put down is the Inner Circle entrance with their matching jerseys. I put a check mark for that.
Yes, I also have to put a check mark. I like it because it's team versus team, and they look like a team.
Yes. So I liked it. There was some good points on it. Jericho wore his dad's jersey number from the New York Rangers, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
And I do like hockey, if anyone didn't know. Sammy Guevara had 93 for the year he was born.
Oh my God. I feel old.
Does that not make you feel old?
It makes me feel very old. Just think 93 was when Lex Luger body slammed Yokozuna on the USS Intrepid.
Wasn't
Sami
that
Zayn might not have
was
been born at that moment.
King of the Ring '93? Was that who was that? Was that Owen?
No, that
Or
was Brett.
that was Brett? Yeah,
That was Brett. How could you forget that?
I thought it
Jesus.
was '92 for some reason. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll come back. I'm sure we'll talk about that someday. So anyway, I love the jersey thing. Thought it was pretty cool. Unity when you come out. Next point I have is the Elite with no matching outfits. X.
You think they should
So
have had matching football gear like the Inner
no, I
Circle?
think no, but if you're going to war, so the Young Bucks had matching. I think they had football inspired like shirts or something. So when they first came out, I'm like, oh, okay, well this might be kind of cool. Then Omega comes out looking plain. Then Matt Hardy comes out in his jacket, but that's okay because he's a different
Yeah,
character.
he's like an exception.
And Adam Page, I will get to Adam Page after. So did you want to add anything to that?
I'm going to agree with you. It would have been nice if they at least had matching gear. They didn't have to go all out with football uniforms, but
No,
something to
not at
show
all.
unity, except for Matt Hardy. Well, even Matt Hardy could have showed some sort of unity and then changed when he.
You could
We'll get
eat,
to that.
you could do the what do you call the tar under your eyes or whatever that is?
Yeah, yeah, the
You know,
paint. But the only one that I think that should have been different is Adam Page.
yes. We'll come back to him. So the next point I have is the loose rules of this match. I had no idea what was going on right from the start. I seen a ring, and I'm like, okay. So and if they set all the rules off the bat, I don't really remember it. I just figured this is just gonna be a street fight, kind of like we saw 2 weeks ago. I have an X for that.
I'm going to put a check mark.
Really?
Yeah, you said it was supposed to be because we don't know what a stadium stampede is.
Yes.
But it sounds like a wild brawl, and that's what we got was a wild brawl. So
Right.
I kind of like that. I wish, maybe
I
they would have been clear on if the pinfall had to take like why was there a ring there?
well, Derek, the first time, let's say you're back in, when was the first Royal Rumble? '89?
Yeah, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay. So if you've never seen the Royal Rumble before and they start the match and you're like, why is everyone coming out 2 minutes after each other? Why are they getting thrown over the top rope? If they didn't tell you that ahead of time, would that not make sense? That's my only thing. And that's my thing. And this is not exclusive to AEW. This is every company.
No, I agree. I agree with you. But like I said, I can't recall if they went over the rules of the match either.
I can't either.
So I can't really fault them for that because they could
But
have.
but to me, if you're having a street fight, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, why are you pinning guys? Anyway, we can leave that.
I do want to say one thing. I really think this should have been like an elimination type of match,
I would agree with that.
or a time limit, and each pinfall submission or whatever adds a point, so you can use a scoreboard.
Yeah. That makes you're in a football stadium.
Exactly, it's like a football type of match, right? So imagine that, and that way there was a spot later on that it would have really worked into that.
All right, we'll move on. Kenny Omega's broom. He's gonna start the match fighting with a broom that looked awful. X marks the spot. That's not really something we have to stay on. I just put that down.
Well, you know what? I don't know if
I know
we're going
he's
to
the
come in.
cleaner. I get it. It's dumb.
Okay, so I don't know if we're going to talk about this later. So if we are, I'm sorry if we're repeating ourselves. I got to say this because I did do notes, but I did more of positive and negatives. One of my negatives was the use of some of the weapons was just way too wacky or out
Yeah.
there. I think at one point, a member from the LAX was hitting somebody with, like those orange cones, like the Jericho witch hat type of thing. Well, a member of LAX had that, I think, and I think it was that, and he was hitting them. And anyone knows that if you get hit by that in that way, the way that he was swinging it, it really wouldn't hurt. And I forget who it was. I watched this match Saturday, so I mean, there's been I wish I knew who it was because it was just so terrible. And it's like people who sell for a water bottle. It's just like, okay, come on. Let's get out here. So I'm not a fan of Omega's broom. It might have worked in Japan. I get it. He's a cleaner. But, yeah.
Okay. We'll move on from that.
We'll sweep that one under the rug. Oh.
The thing, you may not agree with me on this, but when you're in a street fight, to me, brawling is a big part of kind of a no rules, wild fight. And I thought the brawling was terrible in this. If I'm looking at it logically, punching and kicking should be a big part of this match, right?
Yeah.
If I'm looking at the elite, Matt Hardy throws a good, Adam Page throws a pretty good punch. The other three, it didn't translate for me. On the other side, I mean, I just think the brawling, the actual brawling part wasn't very good. It was like, we'll do this for a bit and then we're going to go to some spots. It's, again, we're coming into a match that originally is supposed to be war games, like a blood feud. And it just, to me, the brawling is just very, very poor in that match.
Which is unfortunate because you would think LAX and Jericho would be excellent at brawling.
Yeah, but I mean, let me go back a little bit. Throwing a good working punch is one thing. Selling a punch is a whole other thing too. And these guys are not in the ring. It's not the normal environment. So they're not going to bump like they normally would. So it's the environment does not. I mean, I think they would be good at it. I've seen the backstage at Daly's place about 4 times now with these all-out fights. Anyway, I just thought because the brawling was not good. It took away a lot of what that match should have been.
There was a lot of zaniness to this match, which was a big negative for me.
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, so now we're gonna get into more of the spot stuff in the match. This is not in order either, so because I was Sunday morning writing this and my frustration. The Northern Lights suplex down the football field. All right, and before you think that I don't like the spot, the Northern Lights suplex is one of my favorite moves actually that hardly anybody does. But the problem I have with that, if you do a Northern Lights suplex, pick the guy up, bridge backwards, you're technically pinning the guy. So, and I know he's doing the transition to the other one. The referee doesn't even make any attempt to count any of those Northern Lights suplexes the entire time. Now, I know he's going down the whole field, but at least make the attempt like, somebody's trying to win this match.
I agree. This, when I was just talking about the zaniness, this was the exact spot that was in my head. Now, a spot like this would be okay if this was a mid-card match. But for being a main event blood feud,
right? I
did not like this. I just think he went from the first yard to all the way to 100 yards. Oh man. And like you said, you brought up the perfect point. The referee should have been getting down on their knees. I think it was Bryce Remsburg. Should have been getting down on their knees each and every time they were down for that pin. You're right. You're totally right on that. Now, I don't know if you're going to bring this up, but if so, I'm going to bring this up right now because this kind of transitions into this. This was another huge negative part for me was after he got to the end zone with the last German suplex. I think it was one of the Young Bucks that was doing this. They started dancing and doing the celebration.
Yeah, the end zone dance.
End zone, but the over celebration. And he got a yellow flag for that. It kind of goes back to what you were saying. Like, what does a yellow flag mean? And if it doesn't mean anything, then why do we have it? Makes no sense.
Now, if you weren't a football fan and you saw that, it doesn't. I don't know why. It's just trying to be funny in a perceived serious match.
Like I said, there's a time and place for a spot like that. If it was take the hardcore matches back in the 90s, those you can get away with being a little zany because they were not the main event. But once you got to the main event, so, you would have that kind of match on the card, and then you would get to the main event.
Yeah.
You would have a Stone Cold match or a Triple H match, and it would be hardcore, but it would be more serious.
But just to go on that, and I'll give you a good example. Al Snow used to do that bowling ball spot.
Yeah.
And right? But that was the one spot in the match.
Yeah.
So it meant more because people were waiting for that one spot. He wasn't he wasn't doing triple moonsault off the Titantron 4 times before he did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Less is more. So if it's the one spot of the match, then people would pop for that. I say pop as we don't have fans in the crowd, but it's more memorable when you have less of that, and then you have that part that's more impactful. And they're cramming so much into this match, doesn't make any sense. But anyway, one part with that Northern Light, when he did it, because it's cut shots, so it's supposed to be he's going all the way up the field, so he has like 2 or 3 of them, and then something else goes somewhere else, comes back. At one point he's up the field and he's doing like he did the Northern Lights and then hooked the leg when they did the cut shot, and the ref still doesn't count it. It doesn't make, and and I don't I know we're gonna get into like bagging, sound like we're bagging everybody, but the referees in AEW, other than Aubrey, I don't find have any credibility. They just don't. They don't give a lot of authoritative it's anyway. I don't want to bag on.
Well, I just want to say this now that we're talking about it. I liked Bryce Remsburg in Chikara, but he does not translate well to an AEW or any large platform where the wrestling's more serious. He's very his style. He needs to really be more strict, in my opinion, when it comes to making calls and being consistent as well, because he loses all his credibility. And in a spot like that, he lost a lot of credibility because you have 2 guys on a podcast talking about how he did not go down for each and every count when the shoulders are down.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on.
And he lost credibility when he was refereeing Invisible Men like years ago. But that's a whole other story.
Well, that's a jab.
That's if that happens on any of these shows, that'll be the last review we do.
Yeah.
So there, at one point, Inner Circle, I believe it's the Inner Circle, it was a 5-on-1 beatdown in the ring. So there's 5 of them in the ring with 1 elite member. No pin. Don't even try to pin. Nothing. No. And I'm gonna get to the first pinfall in a couple points here. But it's just like they're just standing there and the guy's laying on the mat and they're not doing anything. And it's like, why have a match if we're not actually trying to win? We're not trying to beat people. We're not doing anything. And it just drives me nuts. And it drives me nuts because you have people in the ring who drew huge money in this business. And it's like, let's play wrestle today.
Yeah.
So that is an act.
I don't have either or on that. I understand what you're saying, but...
Well, that leads into the next point. The first pinfall attempt was 12 minutes into the match.
Yeah.
So what are we doing for 12 minutes?
See, and this is why I think it would have been more beneficial if there was a time limit and it was like a football game where you keep a score.
Yeah, I would agree. And we talked about this before. Explanations can make all the difference for matches. You explain something, and you don't have to get in all the details. Surprises are good in wrestling. That makes wrestling something that you don't expect to happen. It happens organically or appears to happen organically. But I mean, anyway, 12 minutes without even trying to win the match. So that's almost a quarter of the match.
Yeah. Before a pin.
All right, so I really do want to talk about this. So the Matt Hardy transformations. I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. I see. So here's where I was talking about how zany this match is. And I know this is going to sound like I'm contradicting myself. I did like it only because it was Matt Hardy. He could get away with something like this because he built his character on it. This should have been the extent of where it goes really bonkers and crazy. But I get it. I understand. I watched him in Impact. I saw his stuff in WWE. It's the whole Lake of Reincarnation. I get it. What are your thoughts?
So the Lake of Reincarnation has chlorine in it?
Any body of water.
Oh, okay. No, honestly, you're talking about him in Impact. When he first did the thing in Impact, it made way more sense because he got hit in the head. He started going nuts and he's making up his own world where he's talking to animals. And I was never big into the drone thing, but I could kind of, whatever. If you keep it kind of like that, I can get behind that because this guy, he's just nuts, right? But when you get into my clothes magically change in the pool, it brings me back to when we were talking about who were we talking about before? I don't know, the whole not Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, that sort of thing. If you have superpowers, why do you have to do headlocks and drop toe holds? And that's where I have a problem with that. And then I will say this, the Mattitude thing, while I can kind of get where it's going to pop the crowd, he's going to have a graphic made for when he does the transformation. he almost should have did that at the beginning of the match. Came out with that, I would have popped for that because that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, see, I get it though. Like
I don't.
I
It's
understand.
just.
I give him a pass.
I think again, there's just ways to do it. If you're gonna do the transformation thing, right? So he's gonna go to old school Matt Hardy. Couldn't he in the middle of the match pull a bandana out of his pants or something? Something like that. Like it just, I don't get the superpower thing.
I understand it takes the realism out of it. I understand
Right.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
However, I see what they're doing with this because a part of professional wrestling is the entertainment aspect, and
But I don't think it's that. I honestly don't think it's that. This is what I think it is. It's these matches is like, what kind of gifts can we make for Twitter?
you think so?
I 100% because they hit social media huge, right? So it's like automatically right away, and they would have had gifts for that match ahead of time. So on Twitter, it was like boom, 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 boom. We got this is what's going on. This is what's happening in the Stadium Stampede match. It's about social media scores because that's the crowd that they're appealing to.
Well, yeah, that it started on social media. This whole company.
Right. So that to me, they're not catering to like our age group. They're catering to that 20-year-old fan that didn't watch wrestling when there was heat and riots and tear gas being thrown in building, whatever. It's a different crowd.
I argue. I agree, but I also disagree because if that was the case, then why would they have Jake the Snake, Arn Anderson, a Tully Blanchard?
Well, we can talk about that after.
Well, yeah,
that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, let's move on. We disagree on this, obviously.
That's okay.
Just fine.
What did you think of the drowning spot?
I know that this got some flack because of what happened less than a week before. However, I think it's different circumstance, and I think a lot of it is people saying, haha, look at this. This is so close to this. Because it's not like a wave came and took Matt Hardy. He was being drowned by another competitor. So I don't subscribe to that thought process of this is the same as that. To me, it has nothing to do with it. Now, if you're talking about him cheesing for the camera, thumbs up and all that, like I said, it's Matt Hardy. He gets a pass. I'm not saying he can do all this other crazy stuff, but I understand what his audience is, what he's aiming for. It's kind of like Orange Cassidy. Some people like it, some people don't.
I'm just talking strictly the spot, not the character.
I didn't have any problem with it. I mean, you watch any action movie or whatever, soap opera, they do the same spot. You tell me what you think. You tell me. What are you getting at?
I think it was poor taste. And the reason that I do, I'm against that whole gimmick, but I'm not against I'm not against spots like that, but it's more the timing of it. And what kind of bothers me with it, there's two things that bother me about it. So the first one, guys like Matt Hardy, I'm sure knew Shad, right? I have a hard time believing that when they're putting this match together, that they didn't think that there might have been some flack on that.
So be it.
When I watched it, it didn't hit me right away, but I felt something was just off with it. I didn't. When I thought about it later, I'm like, okay, well, that's, to me, if it was like a month later, I probably wouldn't even thought about it. But it's within that same week, and that's these guys' colleague. I can't have a hard time believing that. And the other thing too is the announcers kept saying drowning, like they're trying to drown. I'm like, the verbiage does not sit well either. And I just think when I think about it. Right? Do you remember the Edge and Orton match at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
Do you remember the spot with the weight machine?
Yeah.
That got so much flack for that when it's 13 years ago that the Benoit stuff happened.
But with that, yeah, I understand. But the thing is it was because it was fresh because of the Vice documentary, Dark Side of the Ring.
I think, truthfully, even if that didn't happen, there would still be flack because there are wrestling journalists that would go to that right away, which they did.
But see, it's almost like just get your pitchforks.
Oh no, here's the thing. No. I just think just the timing of it probably wasn't the best. And I think that the other thing too is, and I listened to a lot of reviews on this where different journalists were talking about it, and it's the same thing. It's like they talk about, probably an oversight. It's probably just an oversight. I'm thinking, how can that actually be an oversight? It just, to me, anytime there's an incident in wrestling, depending on who it is and what company it is, it's an oversight. And if it's not a favored performer or a company, then it's the worst thing ever. It's either it's bad or it's not. I wasn't a fan of it, but I wasn't truthfully a fan of the Lake of Reincarnation either. So that whole thing just didn't sit well for me.
I did not have a problem with that. But you know what I did have a problem with? The bell ringing spot that took place right after that. I did not like that. To me, it was too zany, too Home Alone. It felt like.
Can you refresh my memory on that?
So Matt Hardy took, I think it was Ortiz. There's a giant bell that I guess.
Oh yeah.
And
it was like the Liberty Bell type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and they rang it. They even sold it on Dynamite. He was still selling on Dynamite. They rang it, and he got out and started doing like the jiggly type of thing. I didn't like that. To me, I mean, I guess maybe that would hurt, but. I guess the way he sold it, it was just like, it felt like, in Home Alone when, like Joe Pesci gets his hair on fire, his head on fire, and he's like, ah!
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. I mean, maybe it was the way that he sold it, because that would hurt if a big bell was rang, but I thought it was just too crazy.
Too much, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't have it down, but I'll put an X beside that as well. I labeled the next thing as Meltzer callback spots because he likes to talk about some of the talent being great at doing callback spots. But truthfully, a lot of the quote unquote callback spots in this match was just rehashed stuff that they've done in all the backstage fights they've had in that building. I feel like I've seen that backstage of Daly's place. It's got to be at least 4 times now. And it's just, we're going to bring the golf cart out again, which I don't want to get into that yet, but we're going to do the ice box again. We're going to do all this stuff. And it's just like, I know you want to have story continuity, but it's just, to me, I've seen it already. I've seen these big things already. I don't know.
Well, I kind of agree if they're redoing spots because I really felt this match went on pretty long.
Yes.
So if they cut some of the stuff out that, we might have seen over the past couple of weeks, I can kind of agree with that. I did like the golf cart spot, which I think we'll get into, but.
I'll go to Adam Page now. I thought the horse thing was a cool touch for him because he's cowboy, right? Like, yeah, I did, you can't do, he probably would never be able to do that in a live arena. So, it seems like it's been a while since I have a check mark. So I did like that because he's different. He comes across legit. I like that. I thought that was a good touch.
I'm a big fan of Adam Page, so that's a check mark for me. I love his current gimmick. I really wish they would really pull the trigger on him.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm just reiterating stuff I already said here. No psychology, no one trying to win. Next one I put the goalpost moonsault. Now, it's going to come back to what I was saying earlier. Too many spots. It didn't mean anything. We're going to actually put up a ladder so you can climb up to the post and do a backflip off it. I'm not a big fan of the waiting around while someone lands on you spot anyway. It's just, I actually probably would have forgot about this spot if I didn't write this down. It didn't mean anything at that point in the match.
I liked it. I thought it was cool. It was unique. It was an image that you could take. If there wasn't so much stuff, you would take that image away from with this. Like this would be like, something you could see in highlight video.
All right, next.
Very mature, Matthew.
All right, so Adam Page goes to the bar. I get that's his gimmick, but he left a blood feud to go drink.
He didn't care about it.
I know, but it doesn't make sense. He's got a horse. He just parks the horse, and the horse disappears, and then he's just drinking.
You obviously haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2 yet.
Oh, I have. I have it. I haven't got to play it much, but I do have it.
No, I like this. He does his own thing. He does cowboy shit. Him going to the bar in the middle of this big brawl where he should be helping out and getting involved. No, he does. He marches to the beat of his own drummer. I liked it.
Oh, if the match isn't important to him, why would he go to the trouble to bring his horse there?
Because he feels obliged that he has to do it. His tag team partner's in it.
Anyway,
That gets a
I'm
check mark from me.
that's an X. We already talked about the Mattitude Tron. Ortiz being scared of the water, little too ha for me. What's we got here?
Yeah, I didn't really care about that much. I get it, but also it's a pool. Like you could tell that it was shallow. And LAX to me should be serious thugs.
I
not
agree. I
they shouldn't
find
be in between.
I find Ortiz has gotten really cartoony, like over the top cartoony since they've been in AEW.
I like them better in Impact.
Yeah, they were way more serious. They were street thugs.
Yep.
Jake Hagar going for a drink with Paige. I mean, Jake Hagar is this unstoppable mixed martial artist that's gonna kill guys. His whole promos before were I'm just gonna break people. I'm gonna stop to have a drink with Paige. I wasn't big on that. That seems like a scene right out of Assassin's Creed 3 near the end of the game when you have a drink with the arch enemy before you kill him.
I like it. It goes back to like Western movies and that. There was with this whole spot or this area. I like that he sat down, drank with Adam Page, and then they got into that brawl and everything. I loved the spot where it was the old Western spot where, they took him and went across the bar. The one thing I didn't like was how many beer bottles he took to the head. Because to me, one, okay, maybe he withstood one, but two should have got him down. But when you went to like three, I think they might have even went to four. That was just kind of, okay, he's not even selling for the fourth. No, I don't know. That's a little too. Come on, we know how much I've held a beer bottle. Very limited in my life, but I've held a beer bottle.
Mm-hmm.
They're heavy, right?
Yeah.
And getting hit over the head hurts. I understand he's a monster, but two of those suckers should have took him down.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you're in a bar fight. If this was the APA in the bar, they wouldn't be bashing guys with the same guy with four bottles before they go down.
No.
Right? The guy would be down, right? If you're having a bar fight, to me, that's just I don't know. That really lacks psychology. And I'm not saying this match needed to have all the psychology in the world. It could have stuff that makes some sense. That did not make sense. Nobody can take four bottles to the face.
Except for if you're Haku.
Oh, well. Yeah, and then you would lose an eyeball. So I did think, even though I didn't like pretty much any of that bar scene, I did think the Page stuff on the pool table was pretty good. And just, that was a pretty cool spot. I like Page. I like the way he works. He's pretty solid. That part was pretty cool. I just, I'll say this before we get to anything else. Clearly, I don't like this match, but I respect athletic ability and people that can pull off big moves. Like, I respect the athletic part of wrestling, and I always will. I just don't agree with some of the ways you get there. But Paige, to me, pulled that part off pretty good. That was about the only part of the bar scene that I was a fan of. I don't really have any more on that, unless you got anything you want to add.
No.
The next part was the mascot that just joined the fight and got beat up by Jericho. We've seen mascots in wrestling before. It would have been cool if that was, somebody to cause trouble, like that was under the mascot. But I don't know. I didn't really see the point of the mascot. Just, I know they're in a football stadium.
Yeah, they're in, Jacksonville, so that's their mascot. I didn't mind it.
Challenge flag. I hated that. Absolutely hated that.
You hated it.
Like, so, this is ridiculous.
So here's the thing, okay? I don't mind them challenging the pin and doing the challenge flag thing. However, going back, I'm sounding like a broken record. It would have been better if it was timed and there was a score, because then it would be, pretty like a good argument of, hey, that should have been a point for us. I don't mind them doing the whole spot. I thought it was kind of entertaining. I liked it better than the end zone challenge, whatever, yellow flag. But what I didn't like was Jericho actually going into the booth, taking the timeout while the other guy kicked out, because then that guy kind of, I wish just Aubrey would have went in 10 seconds, challenge, blah, blah, blah. Okay, do like a replay or something, and then got out, and that was it. But like I said, it should have been for a score.
So how many challenges do you get in a football game?
3, I think.
Because you burn a timeout if you're wrong, right? So if we're doing the football theme, anybody should have mailed a challenge.
Yeah, and
I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't have a problem with the challenge, but you're right. The time it took to do that, and it kind of buries Aubrey, to be honest with you. End zone dance we already talked about. I'm not a big fan of the golf cart. I didn't really see the point last time when you can run a guy over and still lose. Doesn't matter. I get it. They're trying to do like a callback to that last match, and it didn't work, but it kind of worked. I don't know. It's so overproduced. Like it's not like something that would be. I don't know.
I liked it. Got a check mark from me because I like the fact because they did that callback and he was able to get away this time.
Next thing up is the Neo 1 drone. I don't even need to comment on that. That's about 10 X's on my page. I'm not into the drone thing.
Whatever. I don't mind the drone. I like Vanguard 1. I think it's like almost when someone gets injured or taken out and they make a surprise appearance. So
doesn't add anything for me. And then the finish to the match. I respect the spectacle of it, but it comes off so contrived when your crash pad's splashing like crazy.
Yeah.
I wish I would have counted all the pin attempts in this match. There couldn't have been more than 4 or 5, and that would be the last one. So we spent all this time rolling the clown car out to the football field and rolling out of the back before we actually try to win the match. So again, just so it doesn't come across like I'm a hater, Sammy Guevara was the best person in that match by far.
Kid has a lot of talent.
Yeah, he can make anything work, even this hot garbage match. But he was the MVP, and I respect the bump, but it just looks again, it doesn't come off authentic at all.
I thought it looked phenomenal, the bump, except for the one camera angle that was like a quasi bird's eye view where you did see the bounce from the crash pad and that. If they just showed some of the camera angles that they showed in the replay to begin with, it looked amazing. And I think it goes back to that goalpost moonsault where I think it's a moment that you remember and a moment that you can put in clips.
Well, here's the thing, the goalpost moonsault, right? They recorded this whole thing the night before, right? So the setup for something like the goalpost moonsault takes so long because I got to set a ladder up. These guys got to stand there and hold each other while I put the ladder up and then climb the goalpost. If you were editing that, you could easily make that boom, boom, like quick transition where it just looks like perfect, like authentic. Same thing with the finish of the match. It comes off like we just got all these tables and stuff laying on top of this mat and it's just sitting here and I don't know. That stuff drives me nuts. There's no quality control.
That's why you don't show it. You don't show what is there, right? You just show it from like you're standing beside it so you can't see that. You don't know what they go for.
Or you show it ahead of time. This is the crash course. This is the obstacle. We've set up all these things in this match that these guys can use at their disposal.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, honestly, it's to me when I look at the match, it comes off as a Money in the Bank knockoff, which I didn't like that match either. It's along the same lines.
Okay, so I got one more thing before we. Okay.
Yeah, well, we could go on it for a while.
We spent a lot of time on this.
Sure.
So, what did you think about the Elite winning the match?
It doesn't do anything for them.
That's your problem with it? Because you want to know what my problem with it is that throughout the entire match, the Elite had the upper hand. And then they win the match, which I'm not going to say, like, it's not, I hate the bearing. It's not bearing, but I would have liked it if maybe Inner Circle had more offense during the match or they went over at the end. I just think it was very one-sided and it almost lost a bit of interest because of that.
Well, I think this feud was dead before the match even started. This feud hasn't had that much steam for quite a while. It's too bad like the pandemic happened because the War Games match, I would assume, would have been more of that gritty fight type match. I know they wanted to do something that would be like a social media shared match, but I didn't really. I honestly, when they announced the match, when did they announce it? Like just before the pay-per-view?
Yeah. This match would have
It,
been a lot better if instead of Matt Hardy, it was Cody, and Matt Hardy was in the for the finals for the TNT champion.
oh, I guarantee,
Because
because I don't
Cody's a
think.
member of the Elite and Matt Hardy's not.
Well, Cody doesn't book himself in comedic stuff either.
No, there would have been a sense of realism to it, like more
Right.
realism, right? Like more
That's
of
why
grittiness.
that's why he's so over. He doesn't allow himself to be in the comedic type stuff.
No, he's a serious part of the show.
Right. But he's also running the show. One of the people running the
Um,
show. He's not gonna put I don't wanna, how do I put this? You got four EVPs, right? And one's completely different than the other three on the show. That would have actually, now that I think about it, that would have been an interesting dichotomy if he was in that match. Because I'd have a hard time thinking there would have been as much haha.
yeah, exactly. And it would have been probably a overall better quality match. And then if you had Matt Hardy in the finals for the TNT Championship, Matt Hardy, who's still kind of new, would have had some solid wins under his belt going into the finals against Lance Archer.
Yeah.
And then with the Tyson, Matt Hardy and Tyson, like that's kind of like a wacky combo that people would have probably been intrigued to see. But we'll get to TNT title in a minute.
I just want to end on this. So a lot of the reaction on the match it was so fun. It made me laugh. I've never watched wrestling to laugh ever, and that's where I have a problem with that. It's like I watch it for actual action, the story, be like into the match. I want to get engaged in the match. And the thing with AEW from the start is this is going to be that alternative wrestling. We're going to have this sport centric. We're going to have more realism, less comedy, and to me this was just like watching Money in the Bank. And that's where
that brings me to my next question for you. Did
yeah.
you like this more or less than the Money in the Bank match?
Oh God, I don't even know if I can answer that. They're both terrible.
You gotta pick one. If you're going to rewatch one, what one you had to rewatch it? What one would you choose? Good thing we don't pay for airtime. Holy crap! You can think about this really hard.
I honestly, it's probably Money in the Bank.
Really?
Because character-wise, there was more that I could sink into on that match.
See, I'm the other way. I like this match. I thought this was one of the better matches when it comes to the cinematic universe, if you want to put that in that category. I was fine with it.
It's just, I mean,
apples and oranges.
Part of it, I had no interest even going into the match. And then I watch it and I have less interest. There was nothing coming out of that match I wanted to, like, there's nothing going into Dynamite where I'm like, oh man, I have to see what the fallout of this match was. There was none of that.
Even the pep rally? Anyway, let's move on. So let's go over some highlights from Double or Nothing. We'll just kind of gloss over most of these. So one of the things that I really liked was Hikaru Shida winning the AEW Women's title. I thought, in my opinion, she's probably one of the best female workers they have. She's just so talented. She is somebody that you can get behind. I like her more than like Rio, who was the other top babyface. I think she can have some good feuds, like when Britt Baker's healthy, and with Bea Priestley. So this was a big. I've been a fan of her for a bit, like almost since I don't want to say day one, but for a while. So it was good to see that she got what she had coming to her. Your thought?
I mean, that's been the weakest part of their show by far. It's the women's division in general from the start of it. I think it's been, out of all the major companies, it's probably been the worst women's division of all the companies.
And you know what? I was just about to say that.
The good thing, but also a bad thing with AEW is because the fans are so dedicated, they just pop for anything anyway, even though the women's matches have been tough to watch. I mean, AEW probably could put out Charmel versus Jenna Maraska, and they'll put it up as a 5-star match.
Oh boy, easy Cornette.
But She does. I think she's a solid worker. I wouldn't say she's like the top tier worker, but she's good. Like she's good. Like she can go with other people. So
I
that's a
don't,
good
yeah.
choice. That's a
Like
good choice.
I couldn't see her being the top in other companies for their
Yeah.
divisions. Like she would probably get lost in the shuffle with WWE. Maybe Impact she might, but Impact has they got somewhat of a solid women's roster.
I think they missed the boat on getting a real strong veteran in that division to work with the talent there, because a lot of their women, truthfully, like they're not ready for these long matches on TV, and
No.
that's to me has been the worst part of the show. And it's not anything against the talent, it's just a lot of them aren't ready for that spot. So Sheeta is a good choice at this point. And one thing I will say on that, she's an example of the win-loss record where that actually plays into her going into a match. She's won however many matches in a row, so now she's built up enough credit going into the match where that stat works when you do it right.
Yep, that's how it works.
I'm just saying, not every
Well,
company will do that.
well, let's move on. What did you think of the casino ladder match? I'm sure you probably have a lot of thoughts on this, but let's try and keep it minimum. So,
So
Brian Cage, he debuts in AEW.
I like that he's got Taz with him.
I love that he has Taz with him.
I think that's perfect. That's a perfect role for Taz.
Yeah.
I mean, years ago, I liked when he came out with Samoa Joe, and then they didn't stick with that. But I mean, that's a good role for Taz. He's got a guy that's a killer that he can mentor and direct. I think that's perfect.
And it's not just with anybody. It's with Brian Cage, a guy that won this match. So he does get a future title match. Yeah, against John Moxley.
I think and I'm not going to get into the spots in the match and all that, but I think Cage being in that match may not have been the best debut. Him taking a beating with ladders and all that. I mean,
yeah, I didn't like that they buried him under the giant poker chip.
He should have just came out and just killed somebody, and then he's here. He's coming for the title. That's just my opinion. We can move on from that match. I don't really have anything to talk about with him.
There's one other thing I want to say, but I just want to say Brian Cage, not next night, but on Dynamite, he was very impressive as well.
Yes.
And I was very impressed with what he did and how he looked and everything like that.
I forget the guy's name he wrestled, but that guy's getting beat up every week. I kind of feel bad for him. Lee Johnson or whatever,
something like that. So there is one spot one thing I want to touch on in that casino ladder match, and it's Darby Allin. Please, Darby. Okay, I'm not talking to you, Matt. I'm talking to Darby Allin. Darby, please stop being reckless, and I don't mean by that as putting other people's bodies online, but please stop putting your body on the line like you are. That coffin drop is, oh my God. And Shotzi Blackheart did it on NXT, and she nearly killed herself. I don't like that spot because it's so dangerous. And Darby Allin, I understand that's how he made a name for himself, is doing all this dangerous spots and all this, like, where it's reckless. And I know he does a lot of that stuff, but this kid has so much charisma. He has something about him that if he can tap into it, like, he can get so much over. There's something about him, and I can't put my finger on it because he has it, but it's not being utilized quite. And like this kid, he has an amazing backstory. He has a good look. He's skinny, but he's good. I mean, I really think that, like, this is a guy that, like, his career is going to get ended doing this reckless stuff. And I just don't want to see it. I want to see more out of him. And this is not something where I'm shitting on him. This is something where I'm a fan of his, and I want to see him go further. And I just don't want to see his career get cut short.
It's the less is more thing again. You open the show with a spot fest, you ended with a spot fest. So by the time you get to the end of the show, that spot doesn't really mean anything. So there's no point to do it.
Exactly. Because by the end of the show, you saw so much in the main event, all that something like that. See, if he's going to do something like this, it should be an injury angle or something like that.
Which, by the way, that's another thing, and it's not exclusive to AEW. You don't need 2 car crashes on a show.
Yeah.
Just say.
All right. So other than Mike Tyson, is there anything you want to talk about on this? There's nothing I really, other than that, every match is okay.
MJF is probably the one guy that I watch that show for every week.
Well, yeah, same here. I thought I
He
didn't really enjoy his match with Jungle Boy. I like both
you
of them,
know
but I didn't enjoy the
he
match.
doesn't. But truthfully, he doesn't need to do much, and that's
No,
okay.
but I just thought that match dragged.
It's
That's
too
all.
long.
It was
It's too
too
long.
long. That's it. I mean, it wasn't a bad match. It's just it was too long, and like I said, I like both guys, so I was just surprised I didn't enjoy that match as much.
Okay,
So
we'll
let's
move
move
on.
on to Mike Tyson. So
Hmm.
before we talk about Mike Tyson himself and really his involvement, I do want to get your thoughts on the TNT title, the look, the design, and what do you think about, because Cody, who won it, is now doing an open challenge type of gimmick. What do you think about all that?
There's a lot of criticism about the belt. I don't
Some
know.
people compared it to the 24/7 title, the way that it has a simplistic design.
I think they're trying to go for the old NWA TV title look, from what I gather. But then they had also put out a statement that the belt's not complete.
Oh,
So I don't. Some people don't buy that because how could the belt not be complete but you have it? I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. I'm indifferent to the look of it. It's plain, but if they're still doing work on it, I imagine it'll probably be all right in the future. I like the idea of a TV title that's supposed to be defended every week, except this week. Yeah,
actually,
what's
give the guy
that?
a break. He just wrestled.
It doesn't matter. You're TV champion. You're supposed to wrestle on every TV.
Do you like the idea of an open challenge?
Yeah, it's a good babyface thing to do.
I love the open challenges
I
because
think
you
when
don't
I
know
think when
who will
Cena
show up.
did it, I think when John Cena did it with the U.S. title, that was some of the best TV Raw had in a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's a babyface thing to do, and if you do an open challenge, technically you would work with different people every week. I like the idea of it.
Uh,
Cody is I don't know, he's one of the best characters on the show, so he promotes himself as this workhorse guy, so it makes sense for him to do that.
yeah. Well, let's talk now about the man himself, Mike Tyson.
Hmm.
So he fended off Jake the Snake Roberts at Double or Nothing, and he had a huge pull apart brawl with Chris Jericho. And
Hmm.
Tyson brought some of his buddies. Sorry if I butcher some of this name. Henry Cejudo,
Yep.
Rashad Evans, and Vitor Belfort, and I don't know who it was, but some crazy guy with with like
Yeah.
makeup or face makeup on. So he brought some people. They had a huge pull apart brawl on Dynamite. So Tyson did get physical. He's in great shape. What do you think this means? Obviously, if that was the end that we saw of Mike Tyson, that would be a damn shame, in my opinion, because how do you just leave? We want more. As fans, we want more. I want more. I like Mike Tyson. I want more. Do you think this is going to lead to something?
I don't see them doing it without some long-term finish to it.
What did you think about like Jericho calling him out?
In the show, they kept saying, "Oh, Mike Tyson's later tonight. Mike Tyson's coming." But then it's 5 minutes too, and he's still not out there. And then Jericho's gonna call him out. So
Yeah.
I'm like, pretty poor formatting again on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
show.
It should have
And
been
it's
the other way around where Jericho and Inner Circle interrupt them or something.
right. I'm mixed on this because I think Tyson's a topical person to use. He's got some buzz. Well, he always has buzz, but I mean he's obviously training for that exhibition fight comeback.
With potentially Tyson Fury.
Really, I heard Holyfield at one.
Yeah, no, Tyson Fury said that he would fight Tyson. I mean, that's a whole nother show. We talk about wrestling, so
Yeah, yeah, that'll have that'll probably have a better build anyway.
oh boy.
So
Thank God
anyway,
I'm on the show.
I'm just having fun. But no, I'm conflicted on it because again, like I said earlier, so all AEW's pressers we're not WWE, we're not rehashing things, we're not comedy. The Inner Circle segment was more haha. And then Jericho's going on about 2011, so he's going on about an angle on Raw from 2011, and then he recreates the angle from '98 with Austin Tyson. I don't have a problem with him working with Tyson. I think that it does make sense. I don't. I don't know. I don't. Tyson goes from handing a title to Cody to a shoving match with Jericho, and it just didn't. I don't know. And Tyson was actually funny when he's doing the face to face, trying to rip his shirt off, and then he's
Pro wrestling tees make solid shirt.
um clearly. So I couldn't understand what Tyson was saying, but it was he's a character, so he's fun to watch. I don't know. I'd have to see more of this. The initial thing didn't really do much for me, but I understand it.
I think this was excellent because it did exactly what they wanted it to do. It got a lot of media buzz. Tyson's a professional wrestling fan who is a household name. And if they build a match for Fyter Fest, I think wouldn't mind seeing. Imagine a 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 with the Inner Circle versus Tyson and Sejudo, Belfort, Rashad Evans. Imagine those four names on a team against the Inner Circle. Yeah, I'm sold.
You know what I think they'll do? They'll recreate the boxer versus wrestler match from WrestleMania 2. So instead of Piper and Mr. T, it'd be Jericho and Tyson.
That would be good, and they have cornermen. I would be fine with that too.
Well, I don't know. You'd have to do something gimmicked.
You want to protect Tyson, I understand. Yeah, so if you do a boxing, something that he knows.
Yeah, I don't want Jericho to shoot on
him. Jericho would too. He's crazy.
I know.
You don't want to mess with Chris Jericho. He doesn't care who you are.
No, so, but I need to see more before I'm engaged in that.
I hope. All I'm saying is I hope we see more.
Yeah, I can't see them starting it and not doing anything else.
No, well, if they didn't do anything else, then that would be a really dumb on their part because
I mean, this is wrestling, but still.
Speaking of wrestling, a team that when you look up wrestling in the dictionary, you see their name. FTR made their AEW debuts on Dynamite, coming out and helping the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks were getting beaten down by Butcher and the Blade, and they kind of fought off Butcher and Blade, and they teased something with the Young Bucks. But before we got what we wanted, they kind of left. Matt, your thoughts?
Man.
Okay, how do you think they handled the debut?
I don't want. This is coming across like I hate AEW, but it's not. I don't.
You could have fooled me.
Truthfully, I typically don't like most of the shows, but there's things on the show. There's things on the shows I like. Now this, I think this hurt from not having a crowd because that's a debut.
Yeah, I agree.
You need a crowd for it, and those guys to me they're probably the best working tag team in wrestling. I would say in terms of actual in-ring work, I would put those guys probably at the top. I don't know why. Like I don't get the. We're gonna have a cut shot camera where a truck pulls up to the empty building.
I hated that.
I hated the Cody one the week before too.
Yeah. And Becky Lynch like a month ago, just after WrestleMania or before or whatever.
To me, that doesn't do them any favor. It just it looks dumb. It looks bad. They got out of the truck. They look cool. They look like they're ready to go. I just really hope they're not doing that. We'll be friends for a while and then turn on you type thing. Yeah. It's just, to me, that's lame. And if you're whoever's booking the tag division like that, it doesn't make any sense to me. You have the match. I know you want to prolong the match. There's ways to do it without doing that. Hey, we'll be best friends, no pun intended, until it's time to turn. I don't really get that part of it. But
see, I think they're doing more of the I don't like you, but I respect you type of thing, which I don't agree with.
I don't either. If they're invading that show and those guys are in charge, wouldn't they just go in and destroy them?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would want to see. Take Butcher and Blade out of this equation, okay? And after the match, the Bucks are left in the ring, and you get out of nowhere, these guys come. You don't get this car pulling up or anything like that. These guys come out of nowhere. They run. They ambush the Bucks. Everyone's like, what's going on? Maybe you get some of the spectators, aka other wrestlers that are in the crowd, jumping the barrier, trying to get in between. But before they can, these guys take off. There's a car. I would even put that there's a car waiting for them. They get in the car. It zooms off. Then you got the question, who's the driver? And then you could give them a manager, because I really think they could use a manager. In fact, I think they could use two managers. And those two guys are Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. There was a picture that they posted afterwards where it was them with those guys. So you have the
Oh man.
Brainbusters. Yeah. So and it kind of breaks up. You have to have one manager. Imagine if you have two managers and it's one of the most legendary tag teams, the Four Horsemen, the Brainbusters, behind these guys. Because let's be honest, Arn Anderson with Cody is not working. What is he actually doing for Cody? Nothing. Cody's a great talker. Cody can carry himself. Arn, I mean, I even think like the match at Double or Nothing, it would have been best if Arn was taken out beforehand and Cody's like, I have backup. I have Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson, even watching it back, seeing the role that Tyson played in the match would have made more sense if he was a quarterman for Cody Rhodes. So I think that they should go in that direction. I mean, FTR, Young Bucks, they've been teasing it for years. These guys don't like each other. Why would you do mutual respect? I'm not buying it. I'd rather see, screw you type of thing.
They can have matches with anybody. I mean, they're, like I said, I think they're the best working team that's in pro wrestling. I saw them live against CIY Takeover Toronto, I remember, and that was probably the match of the night when I saw them live. They were fantastic.
Jeez.
Always have been.
All right, so we put up a poll. How was AEW on TNT tonight? Yeah, good, average, terrible, and of course you could tell you put this poll because you put not sports based at all. So 67% put good, and the other 33% put average, who I think that was you.
No, I did not vote.
All right. So
just one thing on AEW. I want it to do well. I do. It's not a show that I love by any means. I have a lot of qualms with it. But that's truthfully, there's a lot of shows.
Matt,
I look at all wrestling like this. There's people on each show or things on each show that I like, but I haven't seen a show from any company in quite a while where I have enjoyed the whole.
I understand it, but I mean, we'll talk more about AEW every single week.
I know. We gotta get that Jenna Maraska and Charmel match. That'll put it over the top.
Oh God. I gotta say, I have been enjoying AEW more than WWE. Speaking of WWE, let's move on to the world of wrestling entertainment. So on Raw, they introduced a new environment with a plexiglass, which gives it like a hockey feel. Did you feel that home?
Well, I haven't been in the rink for quite a while, but I do. Honestly, I liked it. It's different, and I'm glad that they did put people in the stands.
Yeah.
Because that gave the ambiance, I think, changed that show.
Yeah, I
was enjoying Raw, and I haven't enjoyed Raw for, I couldn't even tell you. It was parts that I saw Raw, like the look of it was better, because the problem is they glitz up the empty building, so they glitz it up for just nothingness. And the plexiglass adds something. It has a unique look. I always like buildings, no matter what sport you're watching. If it's an old building, has a unique look. So I like that. That's why I like Daly's place on AEW. It looks different, right? But I like the look of that. That was cool. So I was big on that.
Yeah, I think it gives it a good feel, and it also says, "Hey, look, we're taking precautions." Even had the people in the crowd 6 feet or 2 meters apart. So yeah, I thought it was different. I really hope to see more of it utilized in matches, especially like kind of like what they do in hockey. Oh yeah, and doing like hit checks against it, and I could see Cesaro doing something, or it would be funny if Jeff Hardy went for his spot.
Swanton.
Not a swanton. His on the barricade spot.
Oh yeah.
But he can't do it because they're plexiglass. Kind of like a haha type of thing, which would be okay. So the biggest story of Raw, I would say, is Apollo Crews winning the United States Championship. What are your thoughts on Apollo Crews himself?
Great athlete for a guy that size. He's got to be 240, 250 easy. The fact that he can do standing shooting stars and things, like, to me, he's an excellent athlete. I always thought, even back to NXT, he was booked so poorly. He's not an overly charismatic guy, so he's not going to get over on
a smile.
Yeah, he's not going to get over on his promos at all. I remember there was a feud he had with Baron Corbin on NXT where he's chasing him out of the ring and he's like, "Come here, Corbin, come here, Corbin," and it sounded so lame, and I'm like, "Ah, man, like
Mhm.
But I always thought this when they called him up, he was he was losing all the time. Like he never did like a win streak with them. Like he never got over strong. Like even matches he won, he was like 50-50 with guys like 30, 40 pounds smaller than him. Like he never came across like he was, like a superior athlete to anybody. So the one good part with no fans is now you can take guys like this and try to build them up, build their characters up because you can understand them a little better with no crowd. Promos, I find the promos they seem to be a little more heartfelt now. I don't know if you feel that way. I didn't find his promo was overly scripted at the end of that match, so I got a kind of a feeling for him, and it was a good feel good moment when he finally won the title.
Now, a lot of people are saying that they missed the boat with that promo at the end, and that he should have been like, it took all this time. I worked so hard to get here. I have this belt, and it's not thanks to anyone else. And he should have turned heel. Do you think they missed the boat by not turning him heel at the end?
I don't think he'd be a good heel.
No?
He doesn't no, because he doesn't.
What if you team him with the MVP? Like, this was actually, it's not my thought, so I don't want to make it sound like it was. It was actually Bully Ray on Busted Open. He came up with, why don't you team him with MVP and Bobby Lashley? He suggested having like a new Nation of Domination type of thing. It doesn't have to be like that. I think that would be good because then you have MVP speaking for him.
But if you turn him heel, to me, he'd have to change his in-ring style because a lot of his moves are those quick snapping moves. Like he does the flips and the flying and all that for a guy his size. If you turn him heel, he's doing stuff people would like anyway. So I have a hard, and he doesn't have that overpowering personality. Yes, you'd have a mouthpiece for him for sure. I don't know. To me, he's a likable guy. He's just never been presented as somebody that you'd want to hang out with. He's always been presented as somebody that is just happy to be there.
Like Big Show, his old gimmick.
Well, as long as he doesn't come out wearing a diaper, we're okay.
Oh, God. Well, let's move on. All right. Well, let's move on. So this next topic, close the show, is a little personal between us. I want to talk about BCW East meets West, which was a co-promotion between Border City Wrestling and New Japan Wrestling. The reason why I bring this up, because this past week, it's been 6 years since it happened. Yeah. And for those who don't know, BCW is Border City Wrestling. It's a local promotion, but I really use that term loosely because they're more of a regional promotion. It's a company owned by Scott D'Amore, and it's for the up-and-coming talent. It's known for the up-and-coming talent that's come through it and its good relationship with Impact. Going back to the TNA days, Matt and I have both done camera work for Border City Wrestling. We actually did camera work for the East meets West show. Now, the reason why the show is so good is, like I said, it was co-promoted by Border City Wrestling and New Japan Wrestling. It was the start of New Japan Wrestling expanding into North America, as it happened one day before the first ever ROH New Japan Wrestling show, which was in Toronto. This happened in Windsor. It featured such talent as Okada, Tanahashi, Nakamura, Carl Anderson, Time Splitters Alex Shelley and Kushida. It even had AJ All Japan Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champion Joe Dorian on it, it was a New Japan show, which a lot of people don't. That's mind blowing to me. It also had Evil from New Japan Pro Wrestling, Cody Deaner, Johnny Bravo from Impact Wrestling, Petey Williams, Chris Sabin, Tyson Dukes, Congo Kong, and even Saka Booker T. Matt, It's one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite memory of ever having anything to do in pro wrestling. I want to just get your thoughts on that show. Like, not even just the show itself, but like doing the camera work, interaction with some of the talent, whatever you have.
Well, one correction. I did not do camera on that show.
Oh, you did not?
No, I didn't do camera on that show. I did some B-roll. Like I did take some footage from that show. I was hanging out at the merch table with our good friend Michael Punka.
Oh, so you actually got to watch the show.
Yeah, it
I
was.
was I did camera ringside, which that's a pretty cool experience. There's a lot of mark out moments. Did you have any
I was.
interaction with anyone from New Japan?
Well, let me think here. I met Tanahashi and Okada. They were really pleasant, really nice. Did we not see Jushin Liger at that show?
Well, yeah, he was there, but he did not work that show. He was on the tour with them,
Right.
but he was there, but he was incognito, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, I just had a cool vibe to that show. Like even I remember New Japan had cards they handed out to the VIP seating. Like they were very professional, but they were all very nice, reserved. I can't say I had any conversations with any New Japan talent. There's obviously language barrier. I just remember the vibe was really cool at that show. Like I was in the back at points watching the monitors. Like everything was just excellent at that show. And
Yeah,
sorry, because at that show, Tyson Dukes wrestled Nakamura.
correct.
And I believe I was trying to get footage of Tyson because I think we were doing something for him. So I remember doing a little bit for that match, and it was just seemed like the whole show was dream match.
It was an excellent show. I mean, from my point of view, I had lots of interactions with a lot of people on that card, and I'm just going to quickly gloss over some of them. I just remember like I was filming backstage vignettes, and one of them was just basically Okada, getting his robe on and walking through the ring. And I just remember like thinking like that was a mark out moment for me. That's when I marked out. That's when I was like, this is really cool. I can't believe this is my life rate at this point. I was such a fan at that moment, but obviously I kept my professionalism. Another cool thing
Hmm.
was Tanahashi. I was introduced to Tanahashi, and I was just like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And he just took my hand and did this really cool handshake. And I was like,
Yep.
"That guy is the coolest guy I've ever met. Like, he's just cool. Like, I want to be Tanahashi. He was really
Yeah.
cool."
That's why these days.
Yeah, I gotta give it up to Carl Anderson because he was late getting to the show, but he had a really good reason. I think that day or the day before, one of his children was actually born. So
Mm.
he never missed a booking, brother. He made it to this show.
Mm.
I give him a lot of credit for that because I know if it was me, I don't have that drive that he does. But that's why I'm sitting here talking about wrestling and not actually wrestling.
Well,
Uh,
that's why you missed one camera job and not that I was on.
what?
You missed an impact taping because you had a kid.
Yo,
I
oh yeah,
remember.
exactly, yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
okay, and I was just going to say, like, I said like how cool it was having an All Japan Pro Wrestling champion wrestle on the New Japan show. Another cool moment was meeting Booker T. I met Booker
Hmm.
T, shook his hand and everything. I was actually introduced to Booker T.
Yeah.
And I remember just how nice he was, how professional he was. And I actually went up to him after the show and I told him that. I'm like, I just want to say you're one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And I'll never forget. He looked at me and he's like, it doesn't cost anything to be nice to people. And for somebody like Booker T, and I know, at the end of the day, we're all just humans. We're all just people that are doing our lives. I just think like for him to say something, to be so down to earth and cool, he got a lot of my respect. I look at him in a different aspect.
I remember before the show, and for anybody that doesn't know, that show had a really awesome opening.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best opening videos for a show that's not on a major network. And
Oh,
the guy
stop
that the
it!
guy that
Stop
the guy
it!
that the guy that made it did such a good job.
Oh, stop it!
And anyway,
The poster was
yeah,
really good too. And I just want to
yeah,
say, I have that poster hanging up in my living room, and it's autographed by almost everybody on the show. I think I'm only missing Carl Anderson because he was late. I really want to send a shout out to Matt, our friend Matt. I don't know if he has to be nicknamed that he referees under. I'm going to get chopped for that, but I would love to have him on the show. He's a referee.
yeah.
I would love to have him on the show and talk about stuff. But I really publicly thank him. Can't thank him enough because it's one of my prized.
Just to add some context, when we were meeting earlier, long before the show started. And it might have been, I don't know, a bunch of us were sitting around, and Matt Stryker was at that show. And he did the color on the show.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Somebody brought up the video, and you were explaining the video and how the opening was, I think, Winston Churchill. Is that who you had the opening from? Yeah. And I remember you were explaining the concept of the video, and you're like, oh yeah, Winston Churchill. And I remember Matt Stryker, who was looking down at his paper, head pops up right away. And then he does like this head nod thing because he's the teacher, right? Like,
yeah,
he's like, yeah, like he popped for that. He was marking out the second you mentioned Winston Churchill. So I remember that. And I remember, I think when he came, he was introducing himself or something, and he shook my hand, and he's like, what's your name? I said, Matt. And he goes, yeah. He's like, good name. And he's like, I'm Matt too. And then he was pretty cool. And I remember I got an 8x10 from him, and I wanted to get it autographed. And I can't remember, it was at some point in the show, I don't know if it was a break or what. He's just in the back, and I just said, hey, at some point, would you be able to autograph that for him? And he goes, do it. He goes, do I need to do it right now? And I said, no, and whenever, it's cool. He said, okay. So I came back at the end of the night, and he saw me, and he pulled me over right away, and he signs the picture, because I think he liked that I didn't demand him to sign it when he was having some time earlier. And I remember he signs the picture, and he's like, to Matt. He's like, great name, Matt Stryker. And he was a cool guy. And Booker T, you're right. Booker T was excellent. I didn't have a lot of interaction with him, but I just remember being in the autograph line, and the 8x10 I got him was him and Charmel. Somebody mentioned, there's like, oh, there's Charmel, and he's like, yeah, there's the queen. He was so cool.
It was a good show. I'm sure, I think it's on Impact. Yeah, it is. It's on Impact Plus. So if you want to check it out, just subscribe to Impact Plus. I think you get the first month free. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not promoting it.
I would recommend, if you're gonna watch that show, Chris Sabin wrestles Okada on that show. If you just want to watch a little bit, that's probably the match to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Just listen to the guys' names in the match. I mean, I don't really need to say anymore.
Exactly. It was a fantastic, like, looking back on it 6 years later. That show, no one can take how I felt right after that show. It was pretty euphoric for me. No one can ever take that away from me. It's going to be in my heart forever. Something special. I think, and I just want, I really, sounds like I'm kissing ass, but I really want to thank everyone that was involved in that show and putting that on, because it does mean a lot to me. And like I said, that being said, we're way over. You have something last?
I just want to second that. Always been thankful for anything I've got to do in wrestling. I enjoy memories like that. Like, there's so many shows, but that one was a lot of fun. Even the after party from the show was a lot of fun. So, and little known fact, if you go on Wikipedia and you look up Kushida, there's a picture from that show in Kushida's Wikipedia, and you can see myself and Mike Punga in the background of that picture.
Was it Kushida or Carl Anderson?
Both.
Oh, your celebrities.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, with that being said, we went way over what we usually do, but hey, it's our podcast. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Three Falls Podcast. And with that being said, Matt, any last words?
I love AEW.
Yeah. I gotta go in. I'm going to go watch some Teen Mom.
What the